A good Erev Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, and a special Mazel Tov to David and Tova Leah and the Abels and Kronik families on the wonderful simcha of the wedding that took place earlier this week. We appreciate them sharing the simcha with us in Shul on Shabbos, and we wish the chassan and the kala, the bride and the groom, a binyan adei ad, an everlasting home, and a bayit ne'aman b'Yisrael, a faithful home amongst the Jewish people. It's been a while since we got married, but if memory serves, there are a couple of steps to the process. First, you do a little research, a little scouting out, then you evaluate your findings, and then, once you're prepared, you make your commitment and you begin to settle down and build a life together. Does that sound about right? I'm simplifying a little bit here for clarity's sake, but basically that's it. What's the difference between getting married and the Jewish people committing to and settling the land of Israel? Not much. The portion that we read this week discusses this very point, the portion of Shelach. The Jewish people are making our way through the desert, through the Midbar, on our way to the Promised Land. It's time to pull up at the border and plan the next steps. So Moshe sends out 12 agents to engage in some reconnaissance, to scope out the land and see what the terrain is, how the settlements are, and what it's going to take to conquer and eventually settle the land. These 12 agents, spies, miragelim, scouts, however you want to call them, go up to the land of Israel and are quite struck by the sights they see. They come back, most of them, with a negative report. We can't, we're not able, we'll be overpowered, it's too much for us. I think the technical term for this is they chickened out. Their panic scared the rest of the people into a national panic, and people were crying and wailing and tearing their clothes. Unfortunately, the day this all took place, this day of misplaced sadness, became fixed in our calendar for a long time already as a day of crying and wailing and sadness. It's about 6 weeks from now, on the 9th day of the month of Av, Tisha B'Av. But don't worry, no bad thing endures forever. The Gemara in Yerushalmi tells us that Tisha B'Av is also the birthday of the Messiah. So there's a lot to look forward to. It will get better. On a much more subtle level, what was really at play with the spies telling people that we wouldn't be able to manage in Israel, what was really happening? They were apprehensive, nervous about change, about the notion of giving up their desert existence for an agrarian life. In the desert, we had manna, we had water, we had clouds of glory that surrounded us and protected us, a pillar of fire to lead our way at night. Who would trade that in for plowing, planting, watering, pruning, tending, harvesting, gathering, getting your hands dirty with all the laborious, schwitzy steps that involve cultivating the land? What they conveniently ignored or didn't pay attention to was that settling the land of Israel and making it bloom was the whole entire point of the Exodus, the whole tachlis of Mount Sinai and receiving the Torah. It was all to go and be a free people in our land and work the land and keep the mitzvahs of the land and serve God in all we do. When you contrast that with having all your needs catered to in the desert, settling the land is harder work, but it's more worthwhile. But we were nervous about that. We'd rather keep wandering in the desert, thank you very much. Now, the parallel, there are guys, single unmarried guys, bacharim, who say, why should I settle down? Right now, I'm a yeshiva bachar. I'm unlimited. I can stay up all night and study Torah. I can keep my own schedule. I'm totally flexible. Once I get married, I'll have responsibilities. I'll have a family. I'll have to be certain times at certain places doing certain things. Sounds like a lot of work. And they're right. But that work is the purpose that we're here for. To build Jewish homes with Jewish families, which is the basic building block of Jewish community and the Jewish people. Some would rather remain single guys, live a desert existence, sustained by miracles. That's good for a while, but it's not the ultimate point of our lives. The point is to get married, settle yourself, and settle your home, and build a life together. When the spies in our story, in our portion, said, we cannot, it was really more of a, we don't want to. Classic story about the Baal Shem Tov students. They were once studying with their teacher, and there was a knock on the door. A peasant had got his wagon wheel stuck in the mud outside and needed some help schlepping it out, getting unstuck. The students said, we can't. We're busy with our teacher right now. The peasant replied ruefully, you can, but you don't want to. A lot of things in life are like this. We can, but we simply don't want to. Don't get in the way of a Jew who wants to. We're usually unstoppable. Once we make up our mind to do something, we let nothing stand in the way. But the challenge is often making up our mind to do it. Once we do that, the way becomes clear. So the saga of the spies is hesitation and reticence and reluctance, and that's really our story too. It takes courage and a bit of a push sometimes to really get us to do something, especially if it's unfamiliar or a little unaccustomed, or heaven forbid, takes us out of our comfort zone. But that is where the real growth happens. That's where we actualize and become who we're meant to become. And the same thing with marriage. As a wise man in our Kehillah once said, he said it more than once, when a man is single, he's incomplete. Once he's married, he's finished. But marriage and commitment and becoming a family and growing and building together is challenging, and sometimes it takes us a little bit past what we're comfortable with, as anyone who's been married more than a week will attest. But that's where the growth happens, and that's where we become who we have the potential to become. And that space of growth and actualization is actually mirrored in the ongoing conversation we have about the Jewish people and our relationship with God as being like a married couple. We speak about standing under Mount Sinai as a chuppah. We speak about the Torah as a ketubah, a wedding contract, and so on. We speak about bride and groom, Israel and the Blessed Holy One, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means we're the bride, we're the wife. So Friday night, when you're singing Eshes Chayil, that last chapter of Proverbs that sings the praises of the woman of valor, remember that Eshes Chayil, the woman of valor, is us, the Jewish people, the bride. Her price is above rubies. Her husband's heart trusts in her. She seeks out wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She's like the merchant ships. She brings food from afar. She rises while it is still night and gives food to her household. She considers a field and buys it, and from her earnings she plants a vineyard. She makes her enterprise prosperous. Her lamp does not go out at night. She extends a hand to the poor and does not fear for her household in the cold. She makes her own tapestries. Her garments are of fine linen and purple. Strength and dignity are her garb. She looks smilingly toward the future. All this and more is said of the Eshes Chayil, the woman of valor, in our reading of the Jewish people. May we always be worthy of this high calling, and may we always live up to our potential. May there always be Shalom Bayit, peace at home, in all of our homes, in the home of our community, and in this most holy and lofty relationship, our eternal home of holiness. Shabbat Shalom.